Well, hello everybody. Welcome to yet another webinar from Help Systems. Today's topic being HA alternatives. MIMIX is not your only option on IBMI. We're going to talk about how to transition from a long-time legacy high availability application that's been around for a while and talk about what we can do there specifically today. So pretty pointed webinar. Looking forward to working with you on it. And without further ado, we'll just get over to our guest here and turn it over first to Mr. Ash Giddens to talk about his background.
Yeah, hi Tom, good afternoon. So yeah, my name's Ash Giddings. I've worked in and around IBMI mid-range systems pretty much since day one, based out of the UK, as you can tell from my accent, and I sit on the Common Europe Advisory Council, where we get to meet and greet IBM several times a year. And happy to be with you today, Tom.
Thank you, Ash. And Ash will be doing some of the presentation today. And then I'm Tom Huntington. We'll just kind of go in order here. Executive Vice President of Technical Solutions at Help Systems. I'm also an IBM Power Champion, been that for about 6 years now. Also responsible for putting out the IBM I Marketplace study we've been doing also for 6 years. And been using journaling way back in a System 38 days. So I got a pretty long history of journaling background. So looking forward to chatting with you today about that technology. And then over to Mr. Mark Amacher. What do you do for Help Systems?
Hello, everyone. I've been with Help Systems about 3 years, and I do a lot of the training and installs of the robot product line. Before that, I spent the previous 25 years on your side of the phone and basically as a customer of Help Systems. So glad to be on board and helping with Robot HA and the other robot products.
Thank you, Mark. So today's event is being recorded. We are using GoToWebinar. You can ask us questions through the Q&A box. We'll do our best to answer them at the end. We are probably we advertised a 30-minute webinar. That's probably just a little bit of a white lie today. It's gonna last probably more like about 35 minutes by the time we get done. So, so be prepared for that. We might make it just a tad late. So pretty short agenda here. We're gonna talk about why would you want to switch in the first place? How does the transition work, and how can services help? Along with the way, we also have a special guest with us today, Bob, who's going to share his customer story with Robot HA. As I said in the introduction, we've been putting out the IBMI Marketplace study for 6 years now. Started that study to help bring more information into the market around I and who's using it, and certainly something that's always available to you. It's out on our website, the PDF of it, and we've done some webinars in the past. The question that we ask everybody is, what are your top concerns as you plan your IT environment? Number one being security. That's probably no surprise, but then high availability. And really in these times and what's going on, availability of your systems is really critical because we all depend on them even more today in light of what's happening with COVID-19. So high availability was the number 2 thing on the Marketplace study. Not a big surprise there. The other thing we asked is, what are people doing from a high availability standpoint for disaster recovery, being able to switch over? You know, this year, 58% of the market had high availability. I honestly think that's a little high. When he started this, journey 4 years ago in the HA space, we saw probably more like, high 40% when we talked to people. So I just think this year we captured a bit more of the larger market on IBMI. Still a lot of people doing recovery from tape, others doing virtual tape libraries, some doing cloud backups. And then of course, the real scary thing is there's truly are some people that aren't doing much of anything from a backup perspective. And we've heard some horror stories here in the last year with ransomware where people didn't have good backups in some of our businesses, and all of a sudden you lose a month worth of data because you didn't have good backups. So HA can take you, of course, further down the road. So, all right, let's also have a few polling questions. Ash, we're going to have you take care of the polling questions here.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to launch the first of 2 polling questions. So where do you go to research IBMI high availability or IBMI nuggets of information, really? And you can select as many as you like of these. So do you go to the various peer sites that are available? Do you use social networks? I know I do. I spend a lot of time, probably too much time in and around LinkedIn. Straight Google into your search tool of choice, what about the IBM Global Solutions Directory? A number of thousand solutions on there, or maybe there's something we haven't thought of. So please feel free to chat that into your response.
Yeah, we really would appreciate the chat feedback. We got some good things on this question as we look to see what you all are looking at and what's important for you. And as a business, everybody has a choice of where they spend their marketing dollars, and we'd love your feedback and where you're doing that. How about in UK? What do you think is the most popular thing?
God, that's a good question. I think it probably mirrors what the audience have said today. The 93%. I think we use whatever's easiest, and most people have a browser up all the time, and I think they pop their search queries into a browser, and that may take them to maybe one of these other sites, and then they investigate from there. So interesting stuff.
All right, good. Let's close that out and hide that poll, and let's move on to our next slide here. So I'll just move us ahead. And Ash, we're gonna. I guess we'll start with why would you want to switch, and turn that over to you first, Ash, to cover that.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. So often when I speak to people about high availability, I ask one of the first questions I ask is, do you conduct role swaps? And while some do, the others, probably the majority, give me this, what I describe as an uncomfortable smile, and they either say no, or they'd like to, but they haven't got there yet. This seems to be a common thread. And in my mind, the business has paid for this HA tool, whatever it is, and without role swaps, to me, this isn't really IT delivering on HA. I guess second one on the list, some tools have different tiers, and on occasions, a DR version doesn't include the ability to role swap. It's only a single route replication direction. If we look down the list here, I know one vendor openly states that the HA pair, so a source and a target, should need as little as 30 minutes per day, daily care and feeding. I remember reading this, I nearly fell off my chair. To me, 30 minutes is 29 or even 30 minutes too long. It should really look after itself pretty much. It shouldn't need as much as that. Bad configuration or a poorly designed product to begin with can result in a degradation of performance. And I know we have a slide on that shortly, so I won't steal my own thunder. Sometimes the cost of a HA tool initially means that the annual maintenance is still quite a sizable sum. And to me, coming from an automation background, automation is key. So software should be making our lives easier and giving the business confidence and what they need. And I guess finally on this slide, maybe some of you have yet to take the first step towards high availability. So I think in today's day and age, HA is not just a tool for the top 5 or 10% of businesses. HA is definitely affordable for the masses, coupled with the fact that your target server could now be hosted at an MSP, or you could make use of the cloud services that are now available. So it brings it into reach for more and more businesses.
Right, and I think the second from the bottom too, the whole automation piece. We've been sitting alongside HA software for many years with the robot solutions, and sometimes it's been a struggle, but now that we have both, we can make that a lot easier for customers because you're dealing with one vendor to help you with both automation and HA solutions. So Ash, what about the robot HA software and how this works? It's been working quite well for us using the local and remote journaling that's built into the OS operating system. And this was a product that we acquired 4 years ago. We've done extensive work to it and bringing it up to working with customers of all sizes now. When we started out, I think there was a lot more smaller customers that were talking to us, but that certainly changed rather quickly. So with this, we're using remote journaling, local journaling to do physical files, data queues, data areas, and IFS. And also that's all being done real time. From a perspective of net new objects added to the system, we're not heavily dependent on the Q audit journal, which I think causes a lot of performance issues on production systems. We use save change object APIs to pick up the net new objects and send those over from the source to the target. I also think that that's where you don't have to do as many audits with our solution because of the fact that the APIs are more efficient than reading Q audit journal, which quite honestly was developed for auditing security on IBM, not necessarily for HA purposes, even though it has served as a source for that. We do use the audit journal periodically for getting profiles and spool file information across the system. But like all software replication, and what's different between software replication and Power HA is that you have to define what you're going to be replicating. So if you don't want to worry about that, then probably Power HA is certainly something you should be looking at too from a hardware perspective. So all you do is you go and define the IFS and the libraries that you want to replicate, and away you go. The other thing that's really different between this and Power HA is that we have active database over here. We technically have an active database over here. So you do have customers that do things like BI and query and other things from the target or from the target system when they have this configured that way. Okay. So when we think about HA and performance, Ash, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we've got help systems have a tool called Performance Navigator, and we were able to measure the overhead that alternative HA solutions place on systems, and consistently, this was around 15 to 30% of the processor. So this is constantly as well. It wasn't just dipping in and out. This is quite a sizable chunk to me. I know, Tom, you mentioned about Q or journ, and many HA tools are reliant almost completely on Q or journ. And by nature of the name, Q or journ, the audit journal wasn't designed for HA. It does a job there, but it's an audit journal. Robot HA does use Q or journ, but only for some minor items, such as changes to object authorities, spooled files, and I think user profiles. So not for mainstream replication. You can get bottlenecks in Q or journ, not what it's designed for. A lot of the 30 minutes per day that I talked about earlier is often attributed to checking audits, or to put it another way, checking the HA software is doing what it was designed to do. And it sounds silly actually even saying that out loud. HA solutions shouldn't be difficult or time consuming to monitor. Many of these are mature solutions, and they should look after themselves, as I said earlier, pretty much 100% of the time. And really, they should come and tap you on the shoulder if they've not been able to self-heal a certain situation, I find. Thanks, Tom.
Excellent. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Now, what I wanted to do here is turn things over and bring in our guest customer, Bob Butcher from Amphenol Aerospace. And Bob, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Great. Great to have you with us, Bob. A little bit about your company and what you do for your company.
Okay. Well, my name is Bob Butcher. I've been an I-Series engineer with Amphenol Aerospace for the last 15 years. I've actually been lucky. I got out of college and I've been on the box since 1990, so I've got a lot of experience with it. Amphenol Aerospace, we're located about 30 miles east of Binghamton in a town called Sydney in central New York, upstate New York. We design and manufacture ruggedized, harsh environment connectors for the military and aerospace industries. You'll find our connectors on every major platform in those industries, from commercial aircraft to military ground vehicles to soldier systems and satellites. We're part of the largest military and aerospace interconnected group in the world.
Awesome, awesome. So why'd you get into Robot HA? What happened?
Well, it's funny. So we're in central New York, and we in 2006 and 2011, you hear these 100-year floods. Well, we got hit with two major hurricanes in 2006 and 2011, where we've got 3-4 feet of water running through our through the factory or data center and whatnot. And so, obviously at the time, our DR plan was, hey, let's take our physical backup tapes, I'm going to jump in a car and head down to our hot site, which at the time was down in New Jersey, restore the entire system from tape, and about 24 hours later, we're up and running. We always got the system up and running, but every year, management would say to me, okay, how can we reduce that time to get the system up in the event that we have a disaster, because we had gone through it twice. So my pushback was, well, let's get into data replication. Let's purchase maybe 2 IBM I platforms rather than just relying on physical tape. And then finally in 2018, what had happened was we were running on a Power 7 box, and IBM came out and said, hey guys, guess what? We're not going to support that box anymore. You're going to have to migrate to something else. So it kind of all flowed together. We went out, we purchased 2 Power 9 boxes. One was going to be our production box, and the other one we got a CBU, a capacity backup unit. And the nice thing about the CBU was the fact it was cheaper because with the CBU, you're tied to the serial number, so you're not paying all of these extra costs for licensing. And so we were able to save quite a bit of money with that. So when we purchased the 2 boxes, we got them through a third-party, our person that handles all of our hardware. And we originally were going to purchase MIMIX. I can't remember if it was MIMIX or Itera. And when I saw the bill for MIMIX, I'm like, guys, we can't pay this much, just because I can't remember what the figure was, but it was pretty high. I couldn't go back to management and say, guys, we just bought 2 new Power 9 boxes. Hey, can you fork over some more money for MIMIX? So I've been a Help Systems customer for 20 years now, and I didn't even know about Robot HA. And I figured, you know what, I'll give them a call and just see if they had anything. And I was blown away. You guys had a product called Robot HA. The price was significantly less than MIMIX. And so that's kind of how we got into the Robot HA business with our 2 new boxes.
Okay. So maybe, Bob, can you tell us kind of the progression and how you've gone from Power 7 to Power 9 to splitting your data center, migration, all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So it's actually kind of neat. So what we did is I used Robot HA in this way, and I don't know if other people are thinking this, but for the folks that are out there and that have ever done a migration, when you migrate to another box, most of the time what you're going to do is you're going to do, hey, I'm going to save my entire system on the one box, and I'm going to go over and restore it on another box. And normally it's going to take you an entire day. And so what I did is I said, well, wait a minute, why don't I put my Power 9 box in? I've got my Power 7 box. I've got a Power 9 box. I'm going to turn on Robot HA. I'm going to set it up, which, by the way, I sat down with Mark Amaker, probably 8 or 9 1 or 2 hour sessions at a time. And what I did is I set up Robot HA to set up the replication. And when I went to my new production box, rather than doing my full save restore, I just roll swapped over. And that's how I got to doing my migration to the new box. And so today, we're replicating about 100 libraries. We're replicating probably 20 major IFS directories. We have close to 2 million documents in our IFS, and we're about maybe 5.5 terabytes of data. We have many unique sets, for different certain files. So we don't want to replicate the entire library. We'll set up certain files that we want to kind of move over by themselves. We got unique sets set up for spool files and for user profiles too. And so what we did is that role swap in Robot HA was really my migration to the new box. And like I said, it took me 15 minutes to get that up and running.
Okay. So what was your biggest, we hear in the industry, people are scared of doing role swaps. So what was your experience there?
Okay. So actually, to be honest with you, the role swap is what sold me the software. And I'll give you the story. So Mark Amaker, who's on the call, I worked very closely with Mark, and we had we were going to go live in April of 2019 with the product. So we've been on the product over a year now. And the week leading up to going live on the new box, Mark says to me, okay, we're going to do a roll swap. And I said, okay, I'm really scared of a couple things. And he's like, okay, what are your fears? And Tom, I knew that I could see the data was being replicated. I could see that, hey, if I go to my production box, I go over to the DR box, I could see that the data was in sync. But I told Mark, I said, my biggest questions were system type questions. For the folks that are out there that are like system admins, some of my questions, I got a laundry list of questions here, were my Ethernet lines. You know, were my IP address is going to be okay? You know, were my resource names, because I'm on a new box now. The resource names on the Power 7 probably aren't the same name on the Power 9. Are my tape and optical drives going to come over correctly? Are they going to work? One of the biggest things I was worried about too is my ODBC traffic. You know, your relational database entry. Is that going to come over okay? We've got over 100 users that come in through Excel and ODBC. The IBM work job scheduler, are all those entries going to come over? We do use the robot job scheduler on the production box, but we also do a few things in the IBM job scheduler as well. And then my routes. In my TCP IP settings, you know, we've got like 100 unique routes for all of our IP traffic. Are those things going to come over as well? And then the system name and network attributes in some of my critical TCP servers. And so what I did with the help of Mark is I pulled our DR box off the network, and I did a roll swap. And when I did the roll swap, it took maybe, you know, to run the roll swap programs, and then it does an IPL to reset the system name. It took maybe 15 minutes. And when the system came up, I checked all those things that I mentioned. All of those things worked. I mean, it was like, you know, everything was in there. I don't know how you guys did it, but everything that I was worried about worked fine. And so I told Mark, I said, geez, you know, the concerns that I had regarding the roll swap, after going through that roll swap, I was convinced and confident that, okay, when I migrate to the new box, everything is going to be fine. I think when we actually went live, Tom, I think the only issue I had was maybe a few license keys and, you know, to a different serial number, and that was it. Everything else worked fine.
Awesome. What about backups today? Where do you do those?
Well, it's funny. So we, you know, when we were on the Power 7 box, we did everything to physical tape. We've got a couple drives, LTO4s, LTO7 tape drives. And now what I do is, because I know the data is in sync, the data is the same on our DR box, what we do is using BRMS, and we've got data domain. I run all my backups over on my DR box.
Okay.
What it allows me to do is keep the system up longer on the production box, so I don't have to bring it down as often as I used to.
Awesome. Well, Bob, I know we could talk all day about this. You sound pretty excited about it. You're a great success story. We want to thank you for sharing what you've done, but we have to move on. We have to show a few things. We want to show how the transition actually works here. So I'm gonna.
Sure.
I appreciate your time today. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Tom.
Awesome. All right. So I know I warned the guys we might just go a little longer. So Ash, how does the transition work?
Yeah. So the help system support team, including Mark, who's going to show you shortly, they'll help you to get the software loaded and licensed. Really, really straightforward, literally 10, 15 minutes. And it can run alongside your existing tool. This is a key thing, providing you're not trying to replicate the same items. And then after printing your rules, our utility enables you to see and move rules over from your existing tool to Robot HA. It'll even tell you if there are any settings that maybe need some closer attention, maybe need some human eyes on them before they switch. But anyway, here's Mark to show you how he's helped customers seamlessly migrate to Robot HA. Over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Ash. Mark, I'm going to make you presenter here, and actually, I got to go ahead one slide. Told you it's a live presentation, so there's a lot of things going on. You are now presenter.
Make sure we have the right screen here.
Yep.
All right. Can you see a box called Wisdom?
We got it.
All right. Perfect. All right. So basically, one of the things we've added, I don't know, the last 6 months, I guess, was a tool to help transition existing customers from MIMIX into Robot HA. And so what we do is we, like Ash said, we're copying some of the things that were already set up in MIMIX to make sure that we didn't lose that. So I'm going to fly through this. There's more detail than what I'm going to show you, but I'm going to fly really fast in the sake of time. So to set this up, we already have Robot HA installed, and on this instance, there's already some sync attributes already set up. So we're just going to set up a handful of them from the MIMIX setup. So we are going to add.
Yep. Go ahead and add your library. I know sometimes it's hard to talk and type at the same time. So Mark's adding the Robot HA library, and then you're going to go to the sub menu for the MIMIX conversion, right?
Yep.
And that's what he's doing right now.
All right. Then what we normally do is we print out the configuration things in MIMIX. So that's item number 1, and just ask you what the instance library is. So we put that in, and then also along with regular objects, we also do the IFS. So we would do that. Again, same MIMIX there. Then it's going to be in your spool files. You go ahead and review that kind of stuff. But what we do next, after you have that printed out, is actually extract the data and put it into our working file. So that's number 3. Yeah.
So part of the process too, Mark, is right, and people need to evaluate how they're set up. So hence printing it out, looking at what you have. We shouldn't always assume what you have is always right.
That's correct. Yep.
Believe it or not, we find configuration issues or things missing in the MIMIX configurations.
That's right. So I just did number 3, and it actually pulled the information from MIMIX. I'm going to show the customers real quick what our existing Robot HA looks like. And I want to do that to show that we're not doing anything tricky. We're going to actually set some stuff up here.
Yeah, good idea.
All right. So if you notice, right below the slashes and the Chuck HA, there's no sync attributes beginning with A. So we're actually going to do the ones that begin with A that are in our MIMIX configuration.
Sounds like a fair enough plan.
Okay.
By the way, if you do have questions, feel free to keep the questions coming in. We'll do our best to answer them at the end. And if we don't get to all the questions, we will, of course, follow up with you directly.
All right, so number 4 is our transition. And we're going to put in MIMIX here for the library. This is going to bring up all the attributes that are in MIMIX.
So these would be your data groups, right, that you had. We're bringing those over and bringing them into our product. Okay.
All right, so for the sake of this, I'm going to delete everything that's not an A.
Just to save some time.
Yep. All right, so we have these 3. We have AC Graph, Archive, and ArthurLib. All right, so what we do then is we have our file cleaned up, and we just do an F8 to transition all of these to HA. And an F8 will submit that. Okay.
So the idea why we call this a transition is that you can transition one data group rule at a time if you wanted to into Robot HA, test it out, make sure you're happy with it, and then move on to the rest. That's kind of the purpose behind that.
Yep, it allows you to do it side by side. So if you see it, right now we have those 3, AC Graph, Archive, and ArthurLib in Robot HA. And the reason they're white is a part of the feature of this transition. They're actually locked, so you can't accidentally get them running or start them up from this menu. We want to be able to lock that, so if you build all of your MIMIX files in here, it allows you to purposefully release them when the time comes. So as we show right now, they're all locked, and I'm going to go back out to the menu again. And the last thing is to start them up. Okay. So
okay. So a
They've
question
been,
I get here, Mark, is what about MIMIX? Do I need to go in there and shut things off first, or what should we do?
absolutely, yep. You're going to need to do the administrative part in between those two steps.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to need to shut things off. So we're not fighting because, you know, we both want to replicate, and we'll be fighting back and forth, and that's exactly what you don't want.
So at this point, when they take this option, we're going to take over from there, right?
Yep, we're going to start syncing from that point.
Ah, okay. Let's see that.
Okay.
And again, you could do IFS too.
Yep.
Okay. And you can also do a sync all here. There's an F8 to sync all.
Right.
Okay. So now this is just going to run in the background. What it's really doing is taking off from there. It's saying, okay, now all the journal entries are now going to be owned by Robot HA, and now you're going to probably go back into the software, right?
I am.
Awesome. And as promised in the beginning, we'd probably go 5 to 10 minutes longer than we advertised, but I apologize. Hopefully we haven't made you late, but oh, look at that. You're already green.
All three are there, and green is good. You'll see the timestamp, which is Central Time, but they just synced across, and everything is good to go.
Well, thanks, Mark. I know we only had a short period of time with you today on this, so I'm going to bring it back over and move on. But thank you for sharing how we can switch over from MIMIX to the Robot HA product. Thank you
Not
for
a
doing
problem.
that.
You bet.
So as you can see, there are many benefits to this approach. It allows you to deliver continuous replication while the transition is happening. You can use your existing rules, but we can modify, we can improve upon them and make the approach even better. And really, you know, in my mind, you always want to avoid big bang approach in any kind of IT operations. So avoids that and eases your team into this new technology, but provides that side by side. And Ash, a little bit about the role swaps.
Yeah, so this is really where most customers tend to start their journey with high availability, particularly with software, with a production and a backup box, or a source and a target. And remember, the target can be anywhere, so you could use your own data center or an MSP or even a cloud. No restriction in distance here at all. That's key. And role swaps can be conducted either interactively, or you could submit them to batch. And then on this slide, this is often the first step towards a full role swap. It's what we call a swap while active, where we simulate a failure on production. Users keep working, don't worry about that. And we allow a subset of users onto the target box to perform some application data integrity checks before resuming and swapping back. Remember, all of your production workload continues seamlessly at this time.
Thank you, Ash. And then Mark, back over to you on the services topic and what you all do with services.
Sure. So when you sign up and purchase the product, it's not about just the software purchase. It's really about helping you get this implemented and achieving the ultimate goal, which is doing role swaps for most customers. So we take the time to dive in and help you go through those steps and try to set your mind at ease of any concerns that you have.
Yeah, so you have a pretty healthy list of pre-installation instructions that you go through, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not going to read through these. I mean, it's an eye chart, but we do a lot of pre-work with the customer to understand what they know, what they have, help the customer know what they have on their system, you know, triggers, constraints, you know, existing journaling, all that stuff. So we go through a lot of things. Go ahead.
And I was going to say product installation and initial implementation too. So, right?
Yep. The product's easy to install, like Ash said, and basically we just help you get it configured and get rolling.
Awesome. Well, that's good. I know Mark's helped. I mean, it's not just MIMIX that's we transitioned. We've also transitioned some of the other products out there like Itera and a few others, even Maxava. So off to our last polling question, Ash, and then over to some Q&A.
Yeah, so how can Help Systems help you with HA, with high availability? Maybe you're looking for some general advice. Maybe you're just fact finding. Maybe you've got some axe to grind with your current solution, wherever that may be, or maybe you've got holes or gaps with your current strategy. Remember, the HA landscape has changed considerably over the years. What was right 10 years ago isn't necessarily right today. Or maybe you've got a hardware tool and you're looking towards a software logical replication tool, or maybe vice versa. Maybe you're looking to move towards hardware-based replication. So please feel free to fill that in.
Yeah, let's leave that polling question up. So what you saw today was a little summary of why you might want to switch. And I think many of you can make that determination yourself for the most part, and that we're ready for a transition. We want to be able to transition you. And, you know, maybe you don't have MIMIX and you have a different product out there. We certainly can transition you there too. It's just we don't have quite the automation there, but there are some tricks and trades that we have in Robot HA that makes it very easy to bring over many library rules and many IFS rules into the product. And then through services, we're very confident we can help you out and get started. So probably enough time on that poll, Ash. Let's have you close that, and we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, and that was our summary. And just to remind you that Help Systems, of course, helps people with automation, scheduling, monitoring systems with both the robot and the HA. High availability, technically, again, we help you with robot HA, software replication. But if you're interested in hardware replication, Power HA, we do a lot of discussions that include both of those topics together, Power HA and Robot HA, and we talk about differences. We educate you properly so you understand what you're getting into and find the solution that best fits your organization. And then, you know, not to mention that, we also can help you out with capacity planning and making sure that you're getting the right size system, the right size network to handle your replication, as we can use that to help calculate speeds and feeds across the enterprise too, from a replication standpoint. So, you know, our world's changed quite a bit with both Power HA and software replication. And of course, all the services and stuff. And don't forget about, we have several partners that we can help you out with if you want to do replication into the cloud. People like SkyTap and Meridian and, you know, Sirius and others that we can help you out with if need be in doing replication to the cloud. All right. Well, that's a lot to cover in, I'm sorry, it was supposed to be 30 minutes, but 40 minutes. And we do have a few questions out there. Ash, I'm not sure if you've had time to go through those at all. Any we can handle right now?
Yeah, this might be one for Mark, actually. So what happens if you're in the middle of a role swap and you have a problem? You have a problem, you lose the machine. What happens if the system goes down in a test role swap? Who is production?
Well, at that point, we would just, so production, there wouldn't be a production at that moment. We would actually go into the test box, or not the test box, the backup box, and roll swap it back out to be a backup box, and then roll swap it back to be a full production box. So go from test mode back to backup mode, back to production.
Got it. Somebody has asked if they're using Itera. Do we have a transition tool for Itera? We don't currently. I wouldn't say that we won't have that at some stage, but we currently have one for MIMIX, but we can definitely help you with Itera. We have people with that kind of experience anyway.
Yeah, I think we've, you know, Mark, I know you've moved a few in the Itera space already. So it's...
we recently moved a very large customer that had 14 instances of it, so we're used to it.
And I guess the final question we can cover without overrunning too much, how well does the system cope with high volume? I can probably answer that one. It's been benchmarked. This was a couple of years ago now. It's capable of handling up to 188 million journal transactions per hour. And just to put that in some kind of context, a small to medium business tends to generate about 10 million. So we think it copes very well with those kind of volumes.
Yeah, and you know, the volume thing is really going to matter a lot about the speed of your network, the size of the IBM system you have. You know, that's going to matter more so than than necessarily are, because we're using the built-in local and remote journaling. So if it's
Yeah.
performing well for you with other solutions today, we should be able to keep up with that too. So. All right. Well, geez, I want to really thank Bob for joining us today and sharing his story. It was great to hear your story, and thank you for that. And Ash and Mark, best of luck for you guys over the next few weeks as we all kind of hunker down and work from home and do all those things that we need to do to keep IT running. And certainly HA is one of those things that need to work well for you and not have to cause a lot of headaches for managing every day. So we hope that we can help you out in that space. And that's it from Help Systems today. Thank you so much as customers. We appreciate your time.